In this episode, we review the incredible Wits and Whiz, a colorful and fun puzzle platformer for the NES. And then we blow up some baddies of the sky with the action-packed shooter Hind Strike for the Super NES. In our hardware review section, we test and play around with the unique and multifunctional Uno Card 2600 for the Atari VCS console. Our DOS Vault reveals what's hidden in the Chambers Beneath, a well-made and addictive roguelike for our beloved MS-DOS systems. Plus, we bring back some gangsta tech memories with the iconic Syndicate in our Retrospect review. Finally, we investigate the story of the one and only console that managed to bring down Nintendo from the top in Japan back in the late 80s, the incredible PC Engine in our history lesson. So much to see, so little time. So, let's start. We start our reviews this week with the amazing Wits and Whiz, a wonderful puzzle platform game for the NES by Matt Hewson. You play as a young witch that must rescue her best bud that has been kidnapped by a dark sorceress 5 years prior to the events of the game. You get to see it all in a long intro in-game. The aim of the game is pretty much to gather all the creatures and animals at each age without finding yourself in an unsolvable situation. But even then, thanks to our little witch's spells, you can turn back time, meaning reverse your steps, to correct your mistakes and do it all over again right this time. The gameplay is practically a combination of Puzznik and Balderdash, but given with a nice cartoony look and some wonderful puzzles. The controls are very simple and you won't have any problems getting used to them. Every move you make is accompanied by some wonderful animations. Music is atmospheric and really adds to the whole experience. The sound effects are also well made. This is one of the best NES games to grace the platform from an indie developer, and we're excited to move on to the rankings. The graphics receive a solid 9.6. The controls a 9.4. The music and sound effects a 9.4 as well. And the gameplay a well-earned 9.6. For a total of 9.5, and of course the title of the Game of the Week. Pure NES magic. Don't miss it. Our second game review is for the game Hind Strike for the Super NES by Bubble Zap. This is a traditional shoot-'em-up that utilizes Super NES Mode 7 in an excellent way. You take on missions on a Desert Strike style, and you fly your Hind attack helicopter to meet and annihilate your targets. The game is presented in full Mode 7 pseudo 3D glory and is a top-down view game. The graphics are very well made, although a bit pixelated, but that is to be expected in Mode 7. The controls take a little getting used to, but will soon become second nature, and you will blast your enemies in no time. Collision detection is very good, and that is important for a game of this kind. The music is contributing to the action, but gets a little repetitive after a while. You have a variety of armaments and you can land in between stages of the missions to repair your chopper. Gameplay does not deviate from the Jungle Strike formula, but it replicates it very well. The graphics will receive an 8.9. The controls an 8.5. The music and sound effects an 8. The gameplay a 9.2. For a total of 8.65. A very good action game that we believe you will enjoy. This week we introduce to you the amazing Uno Card 2600 for the Atari 2600 VCS console. It is of course for the elder of the consoles, the Atari VCS 2600, no matter the version you have. Its texture is a bit flashy on the texture side. You have one SD card slot for your ROMs that plug in and out easily, as the opening is well cut without any sloppy design. I do like the color and the feel of the cartridge, as it feels sturdy. You plug it in just like any other cartridge for the VCS, like this. Let's go see it in action. Let's see a few of the settings provided. Okay, now set up. And detect offline ROMs is a function that helps detect any ROMs not shown on your list. Next we have the setup settings, and you can disable the way you return from the game to the cartridge menu. It is a pretty useful option. You can see here the info of the cartridge, such as the firmware version, SD card size, etc. Now, moving on, an important menu is the display preferences, as you can change here your TV signal between NTSC, PAL and PAL 60. Also, you can change here the type of the font used on the menus amongst 4 different choices. And finally, I think it was here, yes, you can adjust the line spacing of the text on the menus. Now, on to the main course, and you can choose the option SD card content, and depending on whether you want to play an NTSC or PAL game, you enter the menu, go to the library of games you want to access. You move with left or right for page up and down, and of course with up and down to move a step at a time to choose your game. Now you will notice that the response of the joystick on the menus is very fast considering the age of the machine. And the whole flash menu works incredibly well in general. Now, let's choose a game. Yes, I think Grand Prix will do. And here we go. You're ready to become a famous Formula driver. Let's start the game. No problems, no bugs. Ah, the glorious VCS graphics. A great game for its age. And to play your games on the cart, it's as simple as that. Now, to sum it up, the Uno cart is a very, very good choice for your Atari 2600. It's well made, it's cheap and fast, and provides more functions for the menus than many other cartridges we've seen so far. It does not feel cheap or fragile, and quite frankly, it even has the appropriate look for the VCS era. It is a value for money choice, and I, personally, will give it a thumbs up. Our first DOS Vault review is The Chambers Beneath, an amazing roguelike RPG for the MS-DOS by Syndicate. You are an adventurer arriving in a once thriving city, only to find it in the grip of terror and fear, and you must find the cause of this calamity. The game plays like a classic roguelike RPG, following the EASE combat system, or bump combat as it is known. In a few words, you bump your character on the enemy monsters until one of you drops dead. Of course, the result of the battle is determined based on your characteristics, level, and the roll of the dice behind the scenes. The game is simple to control with well-drawn CGA graphics. The animation is practically non-existent, but you don't get into a game of this kind for the graphics, but for the gameplay. And the gameplay in this case is sky high. The game is very well made, addictive, and easy to learn. You get a variety of flutes and characters, and when you inevitably die at some point, you're always coming back for a better run. The graphics receive a 7. The controls a 9.5. The music and sound effects, since they're using the horrid PC speaker, a 5. And the gameplay a 9.7. And from this amazing mix, a total of 7.8. Beneath the simple presentation, a treasure is hidden. See for yourself. In our retrospect review this week, we have a legendary game. From the distant 1993, it's Syndicate by Bullfrog. A real-time strategy game, Syndicate is considered one of the classics, and rightly so. You name your shady corporation, choose an emblem, and even a color, and off you go. You enhance your cyborgs, arm them with the best guns you can get, and send them across the globe in a series of missions that include assassinations, sabotage, kidnappings, and many more, to expand your sphere of influence globally and become the world's dominant force. The game allows you to research new technologies like enhancement for your cyborgs, new guns, or surveillance systems. The controls are simple, and all you need is good strategic thinking, good reflexes on the field, and a mouse. The graphics are still holding up well, and they were top-notch at their era. The music and sound effects are excellent and fit perfectly the dystopian atmosphere. On with the ranking now, and the graphics receive a 9.3. The controls a solid 9. The music and sound effects a 9.1. And the gameplay a 9.4. That brings us to a total of 9.2. Syndicate is an amazing strategy game that if you haven't got the chance to play it by now, do so as soon as you can. You won't regret it. Now you all know that Nintendo was the ruler of the video games market the world over in the late 80s to the mid 90s, right? And you also know that the only company that dared to challenge Nintendo or even overcome the company in sales, even for a while, was Sega, right? Wrong. We are here today to talk about the often forgotten tale of the company and the consoles that challenged Nintendo in their home turf and won not one but many battles until the untimely mistake to invade the US market. We're here to talk about NEC and PC Engine. Back in the early 80s, Nintendo was enjoying an easy conquest of the Japanese market since the Nintendo Famicom, as the NES was originally known in Japan, was unchallenged by all except Sega's failed attempt with the SG-1002. Boosted by a powerful library of games and a series of peripherals, it seemed like Japan was now the absolute dominion of Nintendo. But that all was about to change in 1987. As NEC, a company that was enjoying major success in the Japanese PC market with the PC-88 and PC-98 computers, was setting its sight in the blooming video games market. But as NEC lacked the know-how of the new industry, it seemed like a difficult task to accomplish. At the same time, a video game software company named Hudson Soft was attempting to infiltrate the market by selling their designs of a highly advanced graphics chipset to Nintendo. Nintendo did not want to risk its established position by introducing another piece of hardware already, and given the fact that they had to pay Hudson Soft for each game they sold royalties, they refused the collaboration. Hudson Soft, in the end, entered into a partnership with NEC or NEC as their goals were identical, and thus PC Engine was born. The PC Engine debuted on October the 13th, 1987 in Japan and was an immediate hit. The console was quite advanced at the time, and although it packed an 8-bit processor like the competition, it was a fast one at 7.16 MHz. These, combined with a dual 16-bit advanced graphics chipsets and a pretty good PCM sound system, gave the system an edge over anything else on the market. The system used Hudson Soft's proprietary HuCard format, a medium that resembled both in size and weight a credit card, not too different from the ones found in Sega Master System later, but much more powerful and with greater storage. The design also was exactly what the Japanese crowd wanted, given the micromania of the nation. In fact, the PC Engine console still holds the record of the world's smallest prototype desktop video game console. The PC Engine wasn't just successful, but kicked Nintendo off the top of the sales chart in Japan right from the beginning of 1988, and continued to do so all the way into the 1990 when the Super Famicom was released. The PC Engine delivered arcade-like experience for the time, and that was boosted even further when the world's first CD-ROM add-on for a video game console was launched for it, the CD-ROM 2. Providing the console with CD-quality audio, bigger games, and anime-styled intros, and in-between stage videos, the CD-ROM add-on helped PC Engine leave the competition far behind. And then a series of mistakes happened on behalf of NEC Hudson coalition that would eventually lead to NEC exiting the business as a console manufacturer altogether. Seeing the success that Nintendo was enjoying in the US, given to the fact that it remained unchallenged, with Sega having failed to infiltrate the market with a Sega Master System and turning into the European market instead, NEC believed that they could replicate the same ninja attack that they did in Japan and kick Nintendo off the top. But the US was a very different market. The PC Engine was redesigned and renamed as the TurboGrafx 16, a bulkier and more serious-looking version of the console, believing that this was what the market wanted. Also, the internals were redesigned to fit the new exterior. This process took some time, and the launch of the console for the US market was pushed back for late August of 1989. By that time, though, Sega initiated a second attack wave, far more successful this time, with the Sega Genesis, a pure 16-bit machine. The fame of the PC Engine had spread to the US market for quite some time now, though. The dedicated press and the American players were anticipating that when the console would finally arrive, they would get to enjoy the full library of the PC Engine, and especially games like Ys and a number of other similar titles that were not the norm for the US. NEC of America, on the other hand, believing that the American market was not interested in this type of games, announced and circulated a library comprising mostly of shoot-'em-ups and platform games, omitting even these games that they thought they were too hard, obscure, or violent for the US market. Along with those bad decisions came the final nail in the coffin of the US launch, with the completely unknown Keith Couretts in Alpha Zone as Pac-In game, along with some kiddie-like comic books trying to promote the console. It must be noted that at the time Sega was Pac-In Altered Beast with every Genesis console, and Nintendo was offering packaged in special offers the mighty Super Mario Bros. 2. The CD-ROM add-on for the TurboGrafx 16 was also delayed, and when it arrived, also came with a pack of games that did not include those desired by the American players. But that time the writing was on the wall, and the Genesis combined with the Super NES that came out in 1991 crushed any hope that NEC had to infiltrate the US market, leading not only in a full retreat from the region, but also to a cancellation of any plans to launch the console in Europe, even though Nintendo at the time had minimal presence there. Also, back in Japan, NEC and Hudson, after a few so-and-so improved versions of the PC Engine, failed to provide the players with a worthy successor to the console, and by late 1997, due to the failure of the PCFX as the successor wannabe, NEC withdrew from the market entirely. Still, the PC Engine must be remembered as the only console that managed to fight and defeat Nintendo in its homeland. Also, it was the first console to offer a CD-ROM and the first one to pack a 16-bit graphics processor, bringing arcade-like experience at homes all over Japan. Not bad for an underdog.